Okay, so this video is going to focus on the laggards of the crypto market. Not all of them, just some of them. And we're going to start with XRP here. And I've already done XRP a few videos, but just wanted to go over it once more, right? So we'll start with XRP on the linear scale here. And XRP is really just following market structure and the GAN like very perfectly, especially with wicking up to this orange arc here. Not once, but twice. And then finally, enough time has passed for price to go on the top side of the arc. And now what do we see? That price is consolidating right along this purple angle here and right there, which means this angle is most likely going to hold and price will eventually gravitate up to the 85-cent zone where there's going to be more resistance from these candles here. And then to the gray angle in the dollars, and then the orange in the like maybe $40s, $50s, and then the blue in the $2 range. Possibly, who knows about the time, but it could be well into 2025 by that time, right? So we're going to keep an eye on this chart, but this is not a bearish chart. As you can see, it is continuously making higher lows all the time. It's just not really making higher highs yet, but that will come, right? And if we go to XRP on log scale here, what we really see is price. If I just take off this again real quick, you can see the fibs from this 2014 high, from that, let's zoom out a little bit, from that 2017 low, right? You can see all the way over here that the 2.272 Fibonacci extension level is exactly 46 cents, 46 and a half cents, right? Exactly, and you can see how important that level has been. Let me just take off my magnet here, and we can see exactly how perfect that has been. Going back the whole time, right? It was resistance, resistance, kind of resistance and support, resistance, and then ever since April of 2023 or March of 2023, it flipped this 2.272 Fibonacci extension level to support, right? Which is more proof it should gravitate up to the 99-cent zone or $1, right? Which is going to be met with more resistance here. But eventually, if this 2.618 gets flipped, then price could eventually gravitate up to the 3.618, around $9, right? So despite it being a laggard right now, this chart is really, really bullish looking. Market structure is really good. It's just stuck under some levels. And more importantly, it's really stuck under the SMAs, right? If we zoom in a little bit right here, we can really see that the SMAs of the 200 and the 50 are really, really resistance right there, and the 100 SMA is support, right? Now, if we put back on our GAN, there it is. The GAN is also telling that story, right? The GAN on log scale is this arc has been flipped to support. It's never happened before, which means price should gravitate up to at least the 450 range and maybe even the arcs in time where the 3.618 Fibonacci meet, right? So this is one laggard that is still very bullish. Now let's do its twin, right? I never really cover XLM, but let's cover XLM here, okay? So with XLM, what we really see is following GAN also pretty well, right? This is on linear scale, and what we really see is currently price is stuck in between these two angles right here, the purple angle right there and the gray angle above, right? So it's directly in between a support and a resistance zone, right? Which really means that price still has some ways to maybe go down, and it really never even touched the purple angle below, right? It just kind of almost touched it. So there's a possibility of price going back down to test that purple angle right there, which could be in the 8-cent range which would still be a higher low, a higher low, a higher low, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of similar to XRP, except it's more in the middle of her range, right? So most likely, if you look at the Ichimoku on this, most likely it'll continue being put under pressure because it's not looking very bullish on the Ichimoku, right? We'll zoom in a little bit for you. We can see the resistance of the conversion, the baseline, the cloud. That means more pressure to the downside and below, right? So what we're really going to focus on is to see if it can start closing candles up here, but if not, it might just gravitate to the purple angle, which would still be a higher low from here. And if we go to XLM on log scale here, we can see something very similar. That back here in, what was that, 2021, that was the top, right? It was obvious, Gann told us it was the top. It hit that orange vertical or horizontal line perfectly, then came back down to this 45-degree angle, flipped it to resistance, came up and retested that resistance right here. And really, price has not touched this blue angle yet, which kind of means that price might gravitate towards it into the 9-cent range, could wick below into the 8s as well, just like what linear scale is showing us. So despite that this is really a laggard in the space, you can still see that it's making higher lows, right? Still making higher lows. And we just know there's some resistance above with the Ichimoku, and we can see that there's going to be more resistance above with this arc right here, and then more resistance above with this 45 in the future. But I believe first this blue angle has to be successfully back tested before any kind of positive price action. And even though it's a laggard right now, it still has the potential to go higher and higher. And next we're going to do Quant. So Quant has been a laggard as well, and we're going to start on linear scale here. And we can see why price broke down from the highs here. It was basically touching this angle as a resistance angle, and it broke all these angles below until it got to the 45 right here. Then it came all the way down to the red angle, retested the 45 as resistance, came back down, and now what do you see? It's actually breaking below this red angle. So this is showing more weakness, right? Which probably means that maybe over time, price will gravitate to the purple angle. But market structure is actually still fine, right? There's a low, there's a higher low, and there's still a higher low right here. So if price did gravitate into the future where it's still a higher low, that could be well into the future into 2025, right? Until it touches that purple angle. So it could just move sideways for a long time until it's ready to go higher. But it's the same situation where it's not making higher highs, but it's still making from here, high, or even from here, higher low, higher low, higher low, right? It's still making higher lows, so market structure is okay. And if we turn on the Ichimoku for the weekly chart, you can even see why there's even more added weakness. Not only did that red angle lose as support, but it lost the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud as well. So what this is really telling me is like, it's going to need a lot more time. It's going to be probably gravitating towards this angle over time until it's ready to break higher. Or if like Bitcoin breaks into all-time highs, maybe it'll go up with it, right? We don't know yet, but breaking this angle, breaking the cloud, it's not really a bullish scenario, but market structure from the bottom right here in May of 2021, it's still pretty bullish, even though it's not making higher highs, right? So we just need to wait on this one as well. And if we go on log scale is telling the story as well, right? So we go up here from the 2021, and we tried to break this arc as support. It tried, and then it failed, came back to the orange level, and now you can really see how important this orange level is, and that sits around like 115, right? Like price has been oscillating up and down as a support and resistance zone for quite some time since basically it broke out here in July of 2021. So this 115 level is very important, right? And now that we see this arc, we can also see this arc is very important. So what that's really showing us is price is probably gravitating towards that arc, which is also in the 80s, right? So every other screen we saw on linear scale, it was also in the 80s, right? So this should be a pretty good buy zone. As price like trickles down the arc a little bit, that would be a good buy zone for a chance to go higher, back to 115 and above, right? But this is the 45-degree angle on log scale right here. And basically that sits where they meet, where this angle, or sorry, where this arc and this angle meet. That would be like April of 2025. So could price just slowly trickle down to this 45 over time and maybe get into the 70s? That is a possibility, right? Would that be bearish for market structure? Well, for the shorter term, yes, it would be a lower low from here. But for the longer term market structure, it would be still from this low, a higher low, and another higher low from here, right? So no matter what the story, the narrative, or whatever is, it's just basically needs more time in order to break up, just because there's still a lot of resistance above. And price always gravitates to the path of least resistance, and currently the path of least resistance is down, right? So next we're going to do MNW. So now we have MNW pulled up on the linear scale chart, and this is telling the story that since the bottom back here in June of 2022, we can see that it was testing these angles on the way up, and then it was flipping them to resistance one angle at a time, right? And this is the 45-degree angle, and it tried to maintain it as support here for a while, but then it came back to resistance. Then this blue angle tried to be support, then resistance, then the next, right? And now the next resistance level is this gray angle. And we can see that last week it tried to wick above, but it closed below. This week it went up to almost touch the gray angle, and now it's still below. So what that is showing us is this red angle is currently support. And right now it's kind of in the middle. So basically price will probably gravitate a little lower, back into the 70s or so, to find that support again. And worst case, what we could see is going to the purple angle below, into the high 50s, low 60s, which actually coincides with price over here before it broke out, right? So if this angle does get lost, which the trend has been losing every single angle as support, so this one is the last angle of support, and this would be a very heavy buy zone in my opinion because it's retesting the previous range before breakout, okay? And if we turn on our Ichimoku for that one, we can see how far away it is from the cloud. Now, the cloud even sits around like 125, right? So it is getting pretty extended, but what you see with the baseline or the conversion line here, it sits at $1. So that will be even more resistance if price ever broke above this gray angle again, right? So now let's go to log scale. So on log scale, I made a video like I think last year about how price is going to gravitate towards this arc as a resistance. It did break above, but then that was just a fake out, right? And it lost this 45-degree angle as support, which really ultimately means that this 45 and the arc are still resistance, right? Especially after it lost the arc, after it touched this horizontal line right here, this bearish engulfing candle was the first time in April of 2023 where it flipped this arc as resistance for good, right? Well, not for good, just for a long time. Which really means now price gravitates to the path of least resistance, which could mean that price could gravitate down, and look what happens, right? On log scale, it's in the high 50s, low 60s as well, this blue angle, right? And that coincides with this range before breakout. So since price is in the middle of nothing right now, we don't really want to do anything, or I don't want to do anything until it either breaks a resistance or goes to a support. And right now, the best support right here is looking like the low 60s or high 50s for MNW. And it looks like price might gravitate that way until it finds its really long-term base, right? For another higher low from here. Like we have a low, a higher low, and then maybe a final higher low for the high time frame. Even though low time frame has lost a lot of support and even is making lower lows. The high time frame support still is maintaining, which makes this area a really good long-term buy right here in the high 50s, low 60s. Okay, so again, just a lot more time for this one as well. And the next one we have on our list is A0. Okay, so we'll go back with A0 since it broke out from this big bear or bullish candle, and it was losing one angle at a time until it got to the 45 and then came back up to this angle, resistance, and then this 45 was confirmed resistance right here as it got rejected with this wick, and then it gravitated lower and lower, right? And then it lost this blue and this orange, and now it's even under the gray angle here, which it looks like it could be resistance again because it closed last week under. It wicked right to it and lost that, and now price could gravitate once again back to this red angle. But what looks really good about this one is we can go here from the bottom and we can see there's a higher low from here. Then this is a higher low from here. And this is still a higher low from here because this wick doesn't really matter. The body of the candle still closed above this level. So market structure is still fine. And that really means that this red angle probably is the target again into maybe the low 70s or so before it's able to break out. And if we add on our Ichimoku for that, we can see that price is under everything, especially the conversion line and the cloud, and everything is resistance above, right? So since path gravitates down because it's the least resistance, it'll probably get hit again before it makes its way higher, right? And if we go to A0 on log scale, we can see perfectly what's happening on log scale. So from the bottom here, it got up to these arcs, and we can now see how important this orange horizontal line is, right? And price is right there right now, which means it could hold. So maybe are the low 70s going to get hit? Possibly, because this is the 45 and it has never touched it before on this log scale chart. So if it loses this, it'll probably gravitate to the 45 and then maybe more time before there's less resistance. So where does the price and time meet where it has the least resistance? Well, if price gravitated to the 45 and then went up here, then that would be probably, let's see, December of 2024, before price would be able to have a lot less resistance once it's above the 45 and these arcs. And once that happens in December of 2024, then it can probably go gravitate higher and higher to the $3 range, to these blue arcs, and possibly to the level above in the $6 or $7 range, right? But because there's a massive amount of resistance of these arcs, of that Ichimoku, and everything else, it's going to gravitate this way until there's less resistance above and able to break free. And lastly, we're going to do DAG, right? DAG has been a laggard, and this linear scale chart is painting a good picture as well. So since the bottom over here in March of 2020, what we really see for DAG is it was getting rejected one level at a time after it hit the orange horizontal line up top. Perfectly, right? Even wick to the purple angle up here. So then after that, it lost one angle at a time. Literally, it was stuck in ranges for weeks as it broke levels, right? And this is our 45 right here, this green line. And it was trying to hold it as support, but it got rejected right here, failed as resistance. Then it gravitated lower and lower and lower. And it went through every angle possible. And now, what do we see DAG at? Well, it just closed back above the gray angle, which is a good positive development, right? So Now we see price going back to the gray angle here. And what we really want to see is this gray angle hold, because it's kind of important, right? It was also a major support and resistance angle, right? And it looks like this red angle held as nice support, right? From here, it wicked there, there, there. It looks really good. So if this gray angle holds, then it could go higher and higher and higher. And is there any confluence with the Ichimoku or the SMAs? There is, right? There's a lot of confluence here, what's going on with support and resistance. We'll just zoom in a little bit and we'll take our arrow. So the 50-week is actually matching this gray angle perfectly, right? So that's another confluence of why that angle should hold. And the 50-week is currently at 43872, right? So it's still a little bit lower. We could still see some pressure on price this week. But the good news is this angle, this 50-week is support. And look what happened last week. Well, it wicked up to the conversion line, to the 100-week, to the top of the cloud, which was obvious resistance, right? So it's still stuck in a range. But time is like running out for the cloud, right? So maybe price in a couple weeks will be underneath the cloud once again, and the cloud just turned red. So that's going to probably put more pressure on price, and it's not really going to go higher too much unless the other altcoins start to break out. Then there could be another bullish engulfing candle higher and higher, but most likely there'll be some pressure, and we can just see some consolidation along this this gray angle. And if that did break, we'll see another retest of the red angle below, right? So we'll see what happens here in the coming weeks, but we can obviously see some resistance up here and some support down here, and why price is currently stuck, right? But let's go into log scale and we'll see some interesting developments there. And here's a log scale chart. And we'll zoom out a little bit. And I wanted to show you that the 236 Fibonacci is another reason why it was resistance in that log scale fib, right? So not only did that add as a resistance, but also the Ichimoku indicators, the 100-week moving average that I showed you, that is combined with this 236 as well. So we can see what happened on log scale perfectly. Went up to the orange line, to the arcs, back to the orange, lost it as support, and then it rode this arc down as support, flipped it to resistance, right? And now this 45 right here. So we were below it a little bit in late 2023, right? Broke above, it was support. We just lost it again, but look what just happened Look what just happened. So price closed the week finally back above this 45-degree angle. And what do we see price doing now? We're going back to back tested, right? So if this 45 holds, then that'll be a good sign of maybe a continuation higher, and we don't have to worry about the resistance too much of the 100-week, the Ichimoku, and everything else that I mentioned before. So we're going to keep an eye on this 45 to see if it can hold. We're going to see if this 236 can continue to close candles above it, just like last week. So we still have some time. We still have 5 days and 21 hours left before we can see a weekly candle close. But if it is possible to close back above, and this could just be a wick, and that would be a really positive development. So we'll see that. But again, this chart is still not bearish because of market structure. It's still long-term market structure. From the bottom, you have higher low, and higher low, right? So the theme with all these charts is just it's going to take more time. And some of them look a little bit better than others, but some are drifting lower simply because that's the path of least resistance. So no matter what, even these laggards, they still have a good opportunity to take off in the future and just need more patience, maybe even into 2025, okay? So if that is too long for you, then maybe this is not a good thing to focus on, but usually a lot of laggards, they get a lot of attention when everything else goes and the rotation comes into these assets later on. So just have some patience.